Stephanie Allensworth, and this is Real People.
Hi, welcome to the show. I'm here with Maya Rumfo, founder of Pet Project Rescue. Tonight we're going to be talking about her organization and how they take care of animals across the globe. So tell us a little bit about your organization that you created, Pet Project Rescue.
Yes. So I started it back in 2008 officially, but it started a bit before that when my husband and I were in Mexico and we were renting a house. I looked out the door and there was this cute scruffy dog running down the street and some kids were chasing it, throwing rocks at it. And I ran outside and grabbed the dog. And I all of a sudden had this dog and I was on vacation and I had no idea what I was going to do. So I looked up an organization on this tiny island that we were in Isla Mujeres, Mexico. And I found a woman who works with the street dogs. And I went down to her house and, knocked on the door, and it was basically like, I found this dog. Can you help me? What can I do? And I started talking to her about the situation, and I had been in rescue back in Minnesota for a couple years at that point. And we started talking, we hit it off, and she just impressed me with what she was doing, and I knew from there on that I would have to do something to help these animals, that I couldn't just have this experience and leave, that I'd have to do something. And just so happens at the same time, my in-laws wanted a small dog, and she had this small puppy. Oh. And we took a picture of her, sent it to our in-laws, and said, hey, we're here. Maybe is this the right dog for you? And they were like, yes. So we took the dog home at the end of our trip. It was our first Mexican rescue. She still lives with my in-laws. She's doing great, 10 years later. And it just launched this thing that was bigger than I think any of us ever thought it would be. I came back, I talked to the rescue that I was with and said, hey, I want to do this thing in Mexico. And they were like, you're absolutely crazy. No way, but you should still do it. And they were so supportive, and they were like, you run with it, you do it on your own. We're
not helping you, right? Okay.
Yeah, what are you thinking?
What organization were you working with?
I worked with Underdog, which
okay.
was another rescue. They've been around forever. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
They work with puppy mill dogs a lot now. And so that's like where I had started. I had fostered 75 dogs through them and some kittens. Because I'm also a cat lover. So that, it just went from there. And, I had seen a lot of great work that they did, and I knew what I wanted to do. And so we built it, and we started bringing dogs up, and then we started, shortly after rescuing dogs and cats here. And it just grew in a way that I never expected. And so that it all started with that little scruffy dog being chased down the street.
Well, that is so organic, actually.
Yeah,
I mean, that was just starting right from the heart.
Yes.
No business plan in hand or anything. No. You just said, well, I guess this is what I'm going to be doing now, huh?
Yes. And I don't know if maybe I would have taken the time to plan it all out and really think about it, that I would have actually done it. But it was just thrust into my lap essentially, and I had this inspirational woman in front of me saying, hey, I started this from nothing. I think you can too. And so I jumped and I did it, and here we are 10 years later.
Do you still work with the same woman in Mexico?
We do.
Awesome.
I just saw her last month when I was down in Mexico running spay and neuter clinics. It's been really fantastic. We've both transitioned into the spay and neuter world. Of course, we were always spaying and neutering every animal that we ever adopted out. But from seeing how big the problem is and how we really had to get ahead of it, be the solution to this influx of animals needing rescue, that led us down the path to spay and neuter and doing these spay and neuter clinics that we've now been doing for a handful of years. And we still work together. She's amazing. She's still doing wonderful work on Isla Mujeres, and
Oh, so it's the Island of Women that you were on.
Yes, it is the Island of Women, and they are doing amazing things.
Yeah, that's amazing that you actually could find somebody there that would be able to help you, and not only help you out of that initial situation, but then to inspire you to take it even further.
Yes.
So that's really a beautiful story.
Yeah.
So talk more about the spay and neuter program that you have and how widespread it is, because you've really grown this out.
Yes, it's something I'm really proud of, and I'm also incredibly passionate about. We had done rescue for a long time, and it actually, I'd seen people doing spay neuter in Mexico, and I'd seen the positive effects. There were less animals on the street, there were less animals in need. And so I took that idea and I brought it back to Minneapolis because we had a really bad street cat issue. There was a lot of cats on the street. They were coming into our local shelters in Minneapolis and St. Paul.
Were they feral?
They're feral, they're community cats. So at the time, they were not allowed to be adopted out. That thankfully has changed through our barn cat program, where we place feral community cats in barn homes. But that, all came after we really worked very hard to change the ordinance to allow trap neuter return in Minneapolis. So we started trapping cats.
Explain that, yeah.
Yeah, so we go out, we locate colonies, and they often have a caretaker, a really lovely, caring human that's feeding them, but doesn't have the resources to provide vet care and spay and neuter, because it's expensive, for an individual to do this, and a lot of times these colonies exist in our poorer areas, so you're dealing also with a population that doesn't have a lot of expendable resources to use towards this, but they care, and they're amazing, dedicated people. And so we're really lucky to be, working with these just really caring individuals out in the community. So we come in and we humanely trap, spay, neuter, vaccinate, and then we ear tip so that while they're under, so it's completely humane. So that we know who's been fixed, and we work continuously. We've been doing it now for 8 years to sterilize all the cats in each colony, and that prevents future kittens.
Sure.
So that's where we got started, and it was such a success. Well, I shouldn't say was, is such a success. We're still doing it. We've been doing it for 8 years. We've spayed and neutered. We're going on almost 800 cats on the streets of Minneapolis and St. Paul. And that's not even counting the hundreds of kittens we've taken off the street and found placements for. So it's been really successful. And so I knew that spay and neuter worked. I knew that if I wanted to get ahead of the problem, if I wanted to be solution-based, that this was the answer. I had it in front of me. And that, along with education, was how we were going to stop this epidemic of animals coming into shelters, animals being surrendered to rescues, animals being tossed out on the street. And so, I just ran with it. And in 2016, we decided that we would shift our focus from rescue to spay and neuter, and really put all of our efforts into this preventative program to reduce the number of animals even needing rescue.
Okay, so what about the dogs? Because there's not feral dogs that I know of anyway.
In Minneapolis and St. Paul, not so much, but in the rest of the world, feral dogs are a major issue, and they become a safety issue, where feral cats really aren't. They don't interact with humans as much. They're not as engaging in with their interactions with humans, but feral dogs can be a problem if they come into packs together.
Packs.
So preventing those packs from growing through spay and neuter not only helps these animals live a better quality of life, but it also makes the community safer for the people living in it. So we're doing a service for everyone, not just the animals.
Wow. Okay, that's very impressive. So how far out are you? I mean, what states? Countries, besides Mexico?
So we spent some time in Cuba, and we hope that eventually we will be able to do work in Cuba. There's definitely a need there, and there's a passion for animals there as well. So that is our goal of our next country. But there are some political obstacles there that didn't exist when we first visited Cuba.
How long ago did you visit?
2016.
Oh.
So yeah, and we had a different president at that time, so it
Say no more.
made traveling there easier. It made working there easier. So we have since then tried to kind of figure out how we can do more in Cuba, and that's still on the bucket list. But right now we're focusing here, of course, locally. We did some work in Houston after the hurricane, and we hope to continue to help in that area. And then we're in the Riviera Maya region of Mexico, predominantly in Playa del Carmen right now, working in 2 areas that are incredibly poor and with huge street animal populations and animals that just have owners that don't have the resources to spay and neuter. So we've been working in that area, Playa del Carmen, for about 2 years. Well, we're in our 2nd year, so about a year and a half.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
fantastic. So I understand you have a fundraiser coming up. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, we have our 10th annual fundraiser, which I can't believe it's been 10 years, but it flew by. So our 10th annual fundraiser will be at Bauhaus Brew Labs in Northeast Minneapolis. It's a Sunday fun day. It's on April 29th from noon to 4. And with every ticket purchase, people get beer tickets or soda tickets, whatever you like. We have a silent auction. We have a food truck, which is Root to Rise. So they do amazing plant-based food. So yeah, we're really, really excited about having them there this year. It's also going to be a zero waste event. So it's really important to us that in all of our work that we're environmentally friendly, because what we put out onto the planet is going to affect the animals living on it. So we want to think a whole picture.
Right. So zero carbon footprint.
Yep. We'll be composting any food scraps. All of our food will be, able to be eaten like with your hands, kind of eating tacos, eating empanadas,
so like
that kind of, exactly. They'll all be delicious and fun. So we're not going to be using any plastics. Everything that we do use will be either compostable or recyclable. So we're really thinking big picture about how we're impacting our community.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant that they're now making like solo cups, but out of bamboo.
Yeah.
So that they're completely biodegradable.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Whoever came up with that was wonderful.
Yeah.
And things like straws, people don't even understand like what plastic straws can do to animals and how they can get into things.
Our oceans.
The oceans. I
our
saw
turtles,
one about the turtle. The turtle that had it in its nose.
Yes.
Oh, that was horrible.
I'm like, I hate straws.
Yeah.
I can officially say I hate straws. So
okay, it's on the record.
There will be no straws at our events. I don't know why anyone would want a straw in their beer, but just in case. So yeah, it's all... We want to think big picture. We're working from Minnesota to Mexico. We see the environmental impact, especially in Mexico, where we might be a little more blind to it here because we have systems in place. But it all affects the animals, whether it's the animals we're serving in spay and neuter or the animals in the ocean. So we're just, we want to help everybody.
It really actually affects everything on the planet, not just the animals,
Yes.
the human animals as well.
Exactly.
But we don't tend to consider ourselves to be part of the planet. Like the regular animals, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly or not.
Absolutely.
But it's
we're all sharing this space.
Don't think about it. And we're very eco-friendly. So
that's awesome.
we try very hard not to leave much behind.
Which is so important.
Yeah.
And that's why we're doing what we're doing in the communities that we're doing it in, is because sometimes people will say, well, why don't you do things to help people? And I have to say, we do, because we want to make the community safer, whether that's disease, so we're vaccinating, whether that's, safety issues with large packs of animals, where that's not going to be safe for children. And then we don't want people to react poorly to these animals because they've essentially been set up to fail. So that's why we come in and we educate and we find local animal advocates, because there's nothing better than having someone in your own community say, this is why you should do this. This is why you should support this. I did it. My dog was spayed or neutered, and now he behaves so much better, and it really was a benefit. And so having those links in the communities we're working with is really how we're going to get ahead and how we're going to make massive progress.
Oh, I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
So where are we going next? What's next for you? How
What's
are we
next?
growing and
Yes.
expanding?
So in January, I was in Mexico in Playa del Carmen, and one of the founders of the nonprofit vet clinic that we work with down there that does all of our clinic work with us said to me, I need to show you this area. It is the worst I've ever seen in Mexico, which when you say that, that's something, because Latin America has a reputation
I mean, the
for
first dog you
animals.
had, they're throwing rocks at it
Exactly.
and chasing it down the street.
For fun.
You know. Yeah.
Like, they weren't mad.
Not much else to
That
do,
was
I
just
guess.
fun. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like, go to the beach, you know, go do something productive. And I was a little hesitant because we had this clinic running in a jungle neighborhood, and I'm someone who I want to do something fully. I don't want to like start and then not be able to provide everything that we can. And so I was like, oh, can we take on 2 clinics in the same town? And they were like, just come with, like, just let us show you. So they drove me around the neighborhood, and after 15 minutes, I was like, we are in. We need to find this money. We need to find a lot of this money, and we need to help this community, because there are people there that want to provide more, and it's literally the poorest area in Playa del Carmen. And a lot of people visit this area. It's huge in tourism, and they see this beautiful beach and all these beautiful hotels and stores, and they think that this city is just prospering, you know? And that's true in a way, but it's an area of Playa that's prospering, and there's a lot of areas where locals live that it's just not the same. And this particular neighborhood is the poorest area of Playa del Carmen, and I'm talking no electricity, no running water. They're essentially squatting because they're just trying to get by. And there's a lot of animals. People bring them in to protect their homes, things like that. Or a lot of people just find them, because we're asked a lot, like, well, why would they even have these animals if they can't provide for them? Well, if you love animals and you're walking down the street and you see a puppy sitting in the road, you're going to pick it up and bring it home. And then if you don't have the resources to spay and neuter it, and there's this mentality that what's best is to let them run around, you're going to have 9 puppies real quick, within like 6 months. Yeah. So I think it's a lot of people with good intentions, or a lot of people that do care, or just, this shared mentality that everyone should have pets. And it just kind of explodes before anyone, knows. And without the resources like our organization, you're just going to go down this path that's very detrimental.
So how do you advertise when you get down there and you set up your clinic and you want the people to bring the animals to you, and you're all set to go? How do you get them to bring them to you? Or do you have to go trap them and find them yourself?
So the beauty of this is that we partner with Coco's Animal Welfare in Playa del Carmen. They're a nonprofit vet clinic that just focuses on spay and neuter. So they run 6 days a week. So we run these clinics in Playa all year round. I don't even have to be there. I'm here fundraising and promoting and doing everything. I go there as much as I can because it's amazing to be down there and actually working on the ground. But we have it set up that like we can always be, having an impact doing these things that we're reaching
So they can just bring their pets, and they know, everybody knows that we can come here and this is a service and they don't have to pay for it?
Yeah. But the reality is that most people in Mexico don't have reliable transportation, because we're dealing with areas that are really impoverished. So for someone to have a car, especially in the areas we're working in, it's just not an option.
Or even money for a bus, right?
No, and the bus won't allow animals on it, and taxis won't allow animals in it. So their option even to get basic vet care is next to impossible. So we had to think about that. How are we going to reach this community that doesn't have resources? So our vet clinic down there has a transport van, and we literally go out to the neighborhood. We drive the van around. It's got a big logo on it so everyone knows what we're there for. And really important, the staff at the clinic are local, so they speak Spanish, they are Mexican, so they have those roots in the community. So they get out, and they're amazing. They can talk people into, coming to our clinics, doing these things. We'll do tours of our clinics for people if they're apprehensive, because they don't necessarily know what spay and neuter is, so they're wondering, like, am I putting my animal in danger? And so
they don't understand the risk of not doing it.
Exactly.
Or trust.
Yep,
It's a little hard to
exactly.
trust when you're...
Yeah, and I think, living and dying on the streets is kind of a reality for them in Mexico, and so they become desensitized to it, so they're not necessarily seeing the suffering that's right before them. And then we come in and say, you should do this. But the staff that we work with do such a great job, and they talk to people. And so how we set it up with every clinic is they go the day before and they set up appointments, and they find all of these people to load up our entire van for cats and dogs, because we're always telling people cats too, not just dogs. And then the next morning they come back in the morning, and we have a meeting spot for every little part of the neighborhood, so people don't have to walk far, drag their animals far, because they might not have leashes and collars. That's very common. And we load them all up. We bring them to the clinic. We sterilize them, vaccinate them. We also treat things like mange, broken bones, infections.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about that.
Yeah, that's definitely a reality that they need more than just spaying and neutering.
Right.
And then they recover with us. We bring them back. We give them information on how, the animal will recover, and the incisions are tiny, so the healing process is quick, and that's how we make it work. That's how we overcome that issue of transportation, and that's how we get people in. And to date, we've never not filled up the van, so the need is definitely there.
So shoot us your website. What's your website?
It's petprojectrescue.com. So singular, petprojectrescue.com.
Okay, and where are you located in the city here?
We're technically in Northeast Minneapolis, but we don't have a physical location. I've never wanted to spend money on an office because I want all of what we raise and what we do to go into the programs. And because we're working in Mexico with a clinic, and we're working here, and we're trying to work in Cuba, and when things like the hurricane in Houston happened, we got on the road and went down there. We like to move around. We like that flexibility. So we don't have an actual office, but
You're
we do a lot
the
of
Red
work.
Cross for Animals.
Yes.
So, I know they've got the ASPC and a
Yes.
couple other organizations that go down and during those times of crisis.
Yes.
So and you get right in the trenches with them, right?
Oh yeah, and like our vets from our vet clinic at Playa del Carmen went to Mexico City after the earthquake, and we're literally pulling animals out of falling buildings. I mean, if there's a need, we will go.
Yeah.
So
people tend to forget a little bit about the animals during these crisis events.
Yeah.
And something that I never even thought about was the little ones, the little animals, like your hamsters and the smaller pets, the birds and things like that people have had to leave behind.
Yes.
And I don't even know. Yeah, pocket pets. That's a good thing to call them. Even turtles. So. I don't know what people do with those, or if there's even an organization that does that.
Yeah.
But is there any thought about expanding? But I know it's a spay and neuter campaign right now, but
it's mostly what we focus on is spay and neuter. And the reason why we choose to go down that path is because we want to be solution based. We want to be the solution to this problem of animal overpopulation and homelessness. And we can have a much bigger impact spaying and neutering than we can just rescuing. We need to do it all together, and that's how it's going to work. Because if we can rescue 5 dogs, but if we can spay and neuter 20, we're preventing 300 from ever being born to the streets. It's things like that exponential growth, and that's why we really want to be solution-based. We want to be focusing on spay and neuter, but there are a lot of amazing organizations out there helping, tiny critters to huge critters. We work with a great organization called Tierra de Animales in Cancun that my friend Ricardo runs, and he literally will rescue wildlife, to horses, to cows, to pigs, to you name it, chickens, cats, dogs, everything. And so there are definitely amazing people out there doing that work for everybody.
Yeah, because who thinks about that? Not generally, the general public. They don't think about the farm animals or even the zoo animals. Or when I'll just say my mom has a rescue dog from Joplin, Missouri after the big tornado came through. And my niece Courtney helped us pick her up because my mom wanted a dog after my dad died.
Yeah.
And her name is Liz, and she was a puppy mill mom.
Oh.
And the sweetest dog on the
Yes.
planet. And they spayed her before they brought her up.
Perfect.
And she is like just locked on my mom's side now.
Oh,
So my
she
mom's
finally has her
92.
human.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they have each other. They saved each other.
Oh, that's perfect. Joplin is
Yeah.
phenomenal. We worked with them for years and years and years, bringing dogs up, and when we were more focused in rescue. And they have an amazing, I think it's a city-run kind of rescue impound, but I believe it's no kill, and they get massive numbers in the south, and it's huge, and it's really effective. And that's what we saw in Houston, is that, Houston was rocked. It was just, it was covered in mud and water, and people had lost everything. But there were a lot of really amazing people saying, we need help, can you help, can you help? And so we jumped in a van and drove down, and we picked up a ton of animals and brought them back, and we worked with a lot of rescues up here, and they took in the animals. We did the legwork, we did the driving, and it was worth all of it and then some. And so our goal is to help put on another spay and neuter clinic in Houston to, again, do preventative work, because there are great people out there rescuing, but putting on a spay and neuter clinic is not cheap. And to be able to help, animals that maybe don't need rescue, they have loving homes, but they might not be able to afford that, that spay and neuter, for us to be able to come in and say, hey, we'll raise the money, we'll do this, so that this animal does stay in its home, and so that there aren't a litter of puppies or kittens that are going to need rescue, over and over again.
Oh, Maya, I could sit and talk to you for another hour about this, but I'm being told we have to wrap it up.
No. It's a fun topic to talk about. I do love what I do.
Keep doing what you're doing because it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I want to come to your fundraiser and be there and be a part of it and be part of the excitement. And just maybe we can have you on again and we can talk some more.
That'd be so fun. Yeah. The April event is huge for us, and it does help us fund all of the stuff that I've been talking about.
Thank you. And this has been Real People. I'm Stephanie Allensworth, and tune in next week and we'll talk to some more fun people.